All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is April 29th. We got a bunch of MLB games to jump into on today's Saturday slate. A couple double headers as well. We're a little late with the upload. We are on the road. We're away for the weekend, so hence the setup and everything like that. But hopefully audio, video, all that stuff sounds good. Before we jump in, let's celebrate yesterday. A 3-0-1 night. The one game that got postponed. We're not counting that, obviously. So we got the brooms out and we swept last night, guys. Let's go ahead and do that again tonight. We're going to jump into each and every game. I'll give you my lean on the game. We'll talk about it. I'll talk about the total, but all my final plays that will be in the pinned comments, so make sure to keep an eye on that. We also swept in the NBA last night. Mini sweep. We only had one play, so it wasn't really a sweep, but a little dust we went and cleaned it up. But yeah, guys, let's go ahead and jump into this. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button as well. First game on the slate, here's the Tigers taking on the Orioles. Again, this is one of the double headers that we're looking at today. Eduardo Rodriguez on the mound for the Tigers. Orioles here, Kramer's on the mound. He's 2-0 with a 6.2 ERA. Rodriguez on the mound for the Tigers, 1-2 with a 2.32 ERA. I believe he was supposed to go yesterday. Right now, Tigers plus 105 on the money line at home. Total sitting at 8 runs. I really do like Baltimore in this one. They're coming off of winning 9 of their last 10 games. This Detroit team has not shown me much thus far. They have lost 6 of their last 8. I like Baltimore in this one on the money line. I think you're getting some decent odds at minus 115. And then in terms of the total, I'm going to take a peek at the over ever so slightly. Next game up, we have the Nationals taking on the Pirates. I believe this is also a doubleheader game. Nationals 9-15 on the season. Corbin's on the mound. He's 1-3 with a 5.8 ERA. Pirates 18-8 on the season. Rich Hill's on the mound. He's got a 4.85 ERA. This Pirates team has been playing amazing baseball. They've won 9 of their last 10 games. They're coming off of 2 straight wins here. Coming off of taking 2 of 3 against the Dodgers. They swept Cincinnati. They swept Colorado. Playing very good baseball. I kind of like the Pirates here on the run line. Minus 1.5 for plus 112. When they have been minus 1.5, they've covered that in 7 of their last 10 here. Now, this Washington team, it's kind of like what I talked about yesterday, right? This Washington team also is good on the run line when they are underdogs. So I kind of went through it yesterday. I got some hate in the comments, but I was saying this is a game where you could pick any side. Pirates money line makes sense to me. Washington money line, I could see your argument. Washington plus 1.5, I could see your argument, but I do think that the most value here is either going to be on the Pittsburgh side of things, whether it's money line for some juice or Pittsburgh minus 1.5. Then in terms of a total 9 runs, I think it's a little bit too high. We're going to be looking at the under. All right, Minnesota taking on the Royals here. Minnesota's trying out Bailey Ober. He's 1-0 with a 1.59 ERA. Brad Keller on the mound for the Royals, 2-2 with a 3.96 ERA. This series has gone 2 games thus far, and Minnesota has taken both wins, and they've covered their run line. 7-1 in Game 1, 8-6 in Game 2 yesterday. I do think that this is obviously another Minnesota spot. I cannot really trust this Kansas City team whatsoever, but what I will say is minus 121. I don't necessarily love those odds for the Minnesota run line, so this may be one we stick away from it altogether. Do I think Minnesota covers this one and creams them again? I do think so. Is it worth the squeeze there, that juice? I'm not entirely sure, so I'm probably going to stick away from this one. I do like the over, though. Both these teams hitting the over 8 runs yesterday. Obviously, the game prior to that, too, was the 7-1 game. 1 run away on either side from catching the over, so I like the over there as well. All right, we got the Blue Jays taking on the Mariners here. Toronto 17-9 in the season. Gosman on the mound for them. 2-2 with a 2.84 ERA. On the mound for the Mariners, Flexen, who's 0-4 with an 8.86 ERA. Now, Toronto, heavy favorites in this one. They're about minus 245 on the money line here, and their minus 1.5 on the run line is at minus 130. I don't really like that. I might do something a little psycho here. Nothing really warrants this except for the big payoff, but I'm going to lean Mariners here on the money line, plus 216 for a team that isn't terrible. Now, they're not that great. I don't want to put pump air in their tires where I don't necessarily think it's the best spot for them, but this is just too much money to be laying on Toronto side of things. So it moves me away from Toronto on either side, and I look at Seattle. Now, you could also be a little safer with the plus 1.5. This was a game in which Seattle covered that yesterday, the plus 1.5 against Toronto, so that's probably the safer play, but I don't hate the money line either. I know that might be crazy, but I'm just telling you guys what I'm thinking here. And then in terms of the total, 9 runs. We saw a 3-2 game yesterday. Toronto hadn't scored a run in 2 games prior to that. These offenses are not well-oiled machines. I'm going to lean towards the under. All right, the Mets taking on the Atlanta Braves here. Mets 15-12 in the season. McGill's on the mound for them. McGill, whatever his name is, on the mound for them today. He's 3-1 with a 3.96 ERA. Strider on the mound for the Braves, having a good year. 3-0 with a 1.8 ERA. I think there's some value here on the Braves money line. Obviously, one of our plays yesterday, they do come through for us, winning that game 4-0. But I like Braves here on the money line. It's right around -160, which is a lot of juice. But hope you like your orange juice, kids, because I think this one cashes today. I don't feel that comfortable with Braves -1.5, especially only at around even odds. If it was anything like +110 or +120, I'd be looking more at the run line here, -1.5. But I do like Braves on the money line to get the win today. I think they have the pitching advantage today and just the team advantage overall. And then in terms of the total, 7.5 runs. Now, yesterday's game, obviously 4-0, but I think there's a little bit more firepower coming from the Mets, but I don't think it gets it to that 8-run mark. So I still think this is going to be, a 5-2 or a 4-2 type game that the Braves do win, but I don't see this going to 8 runs necessarily. All right, next game, the Marlins taking on the Chicago Cubs here. Marlins favorites at home, -125. Total is at 8.5. We've seen it at 9 on some sports books as well, so I'm going to lean towards the over there, 8.5, trusting that the sports books know what they're doing. Chicago coming off of a loss yesterday. We did lean that way. Luckily, it wasn't a final play, but Miami taking that win as plus money underdogs yesterday. That said, I don't think that it sticks. I think that the Cubs win this one. They bounce back. They're underdogs here at +115. I like the plus money on the Chicago side of things. I'm going to lean in that direction. Like I said, I'm also taking a peek at the over. All right, the Oakland A's taking on the Reds here. A's +138 on the money line at home. Total is sitting at 7.5 runs. The Cincinnati team has covered 2 straight games as run line favorites. One against Texas and then one against Oakland, which was yesterday. They win 11-7. I like the over here. I think the similar type of thing. A lot of balls in play and a lot of runs scored. Muller on the mound for the Athletics. He's got no wins this season. 7.2 ERA. Hunter Green on the mound for the Reds. 0-1 with a 3.5 ERA. I expect there to be double-digit scoring in this game. I'm going to lean towards the over first and foremost, and then I go back and forth. I guess I lean Cincinnati -1.5 for some plus money. I don't love that all that much, but that is going to be the way we're leaning. All right, the Red Sox taking on the Guardians here. Red Sox -128 at home with Brian Bayo on the mound. He's only had one start. He's 0-1 with a 9.8 ERA. Plesak on the mound for the Guardians, 1-1 with a 6.5 ERA. Total right now is sitting at 9 runs, and I immediately jump to the under. I don't think this is going to be a very high-scoring game. Yesterday, Cleveland does get the win 5-2, sticking to the under. That was one of our cashes from yesterday, and I just don't see either of these offenses really exploding as of late. Now, I know we don't have the best of pitchers on the mound, I can admit that, but 9 runs is fairly high. Cleveland hasn't hit over 9 runs more than once in their last 10 games here, so I do like the under. And then in terms of a side, I guess I would lean towards Cleveland run line +1.5, even as a Red Sox fan. I don't think this is a Red Sox team that when they get the win and when they get the juices flowing, I don't think they necessarily can, beat a team by that much. They're not a run away and pour it on type of a team. Now they've done that, obviously, a couple times this season. Milwaukee, they did it, once. Minnesota, they did it once. But really, I think this Celtics team, this Red Sox team is a very much sort of close game, grind it out, run here, run there type of a team, not an offensive wagon. So I like Cleveland on the run line, and I wouldn't expect, the Red Sox to definitely win this one either. So I think that there's a little like 2 birds, 1 stone there. All right, moving on, we have the Tigers taking on the Orioles in the second part of this doubleheader. Grayson Rodriguez now getting to pitch in the second game here. Tigers have Matthew Boyd on the mound, who's 4.26 ERA. Same thing as before. I am going to lean towards the Orioles here. I will say I'm probably not going to bet both these if they become final plays. I might stick away from it. Doubleheaders are kind of weird. We got burned with who was on the doubleheader. Maybe the Guardians earlier in the year. We got kind of burned there, so we'll probably ultimately stick away from this. But all same things apply here, other than just 2 different pitchers. Moving on, we got the Astros taking on the Phillies here. Astros -125 here on the money line at home. They have Javier on the mound, 2-0 with a 3.2 ERA. Zach Wheeler on the mound for the Phillies, 2-1 with a 4.7 ERA. Philly getting that 2-1. I think it was 3-1 win yesterday. Houston obviously coming off of that loss, but they did take the last 2 games against Seattle. We thought that there was a little momentum building. I do think that's a good spot for Houston here, but I'm not laying their money line here. What I will take if I do pull the trigger on this is Houston -1.5. They have been covering this every time that they've won. So they've won 7 of their last 10 games. They've also covered 1.5 in their last 7 of their last 10 games. So when Houston's winning, they seem to be winning by, a couple runs here. So I am going to lean towards Houston on the run line here. For plus 170 odds, there's a lot of value there. In terms of the total 7.5 runs, we've seen both these teams start to trend in an under direction. Last 3 games for Houston have been under that line. Last 2 games for Philly have been under that line, but 7 of their last 10 under that line. I think this is a good spot for the under. Unless Houston decides to tear it up and go off, that's the only sort of conception of an idea that I could see this actually turning into an over, but I do like the under. All right, Padres taking on the San Francisco Giants here. Musgrove on the mound for the Padres. He's got 5.4 ERA with 1 win on the season. Ney on the mound for the Giants, 6.6 ERA. We have a total of 15.5 in this game. 15.5 in this game. Now, I guess it's understandable. I really don't know why this is so high. 15.5. I must be missing something, or I'm just not clued in on something, but I'm going to lean towards the under. I'm thinking that might be a final play. We've obviously seen these two teams score a decent amount of runs, but 15.5 is absolutely crazy to me. So I'm going to go ahead and lean towards the under. You can get the under at actually, I think, really good odds over on DraftKings, like minus 105 too. So I might be missing something, but 15.5 seemed way too high to me. Maybe I'm an idiot. Then in terms of a side of things, I actually think that the value here is going to be on San Francisco for plus 160 odds. San Diego probably does win this game, I'll admit that, but I do think that there's value in taking the underdog here today. All right, Pirates taking on the Nationals. Very similar to what we had talked about prior to with these two teams. I do like game 1 a little bit more if we were to look at the Pirates side of things than this game. So all the stuff I talked about in that first slip, everything still applies, but I prefer game 1. We get the Rangers taking on the Yankees here. Yankees catching the L yesterday. Yes, we did. We didn't make it a final play, but yes, we did really back the Yankees in game 1 because the Rangers had done us dirty when they lost all those games against the Reds. New York plus 135 on the money line is tempting, but I do think, and I don't know if I'm gonna be able to pull this to be a final play because I still am very much regretful of backing the Rangers, and I hate them right now. We got some revenge still that has not been finished here, but I think this is a Rangers spot today. Evaldi on the mound for them. 5.2 ERA, 2-2 on the season, but Johnny Brito just has not impressed this season. So Texas minus 140-ish is going to be the money line pick that I have here. Then in terms of the total, 8.5 runs. I've seen it on 8 at some books as well. I like the under here. Next game, we have Milwaukee taking on the Angels here. Detmer's on the mound for the Angels, 0-1 with a 4.15 ERA. Burns on the mound for the Brewers, 4.5 ERA, 2-1 record. The Brewers still, to me, a quiet team with a 17-9 record. They are big favorites in this one, coming off the win yesterday as well. They won a low-scoring game, 2-1. Obviously, they were favorites. They did get the job done. I expect this one to be even more of a win today, so I'm going to be looking at Milwaukee on the run line here, plus 140. Now, in full transparency, Milwaukee is not a run line team, especially as favorites. They've only covered that at one time in their last 7 games here. So keep that in mind. This Milwaukee team, this is strictly because of the plus 140 value. The safe play is obviously Milwaukee money line, but I think run line here is a decent spot. I think that they controlled most of that game and still only won by 1 run, which is unfortunate. All right, we get the White Sox taking on Tampa Bay. Lance Lynn on the mound for the Sox, 7.5 ERA. Foucher on the mound, a 5.68 ERA. We do have a total of 9 runs in this one. Tampa Bay was one of the games that we cashed yesterday. Game 1 of the series was 14-5. Yesterday was 3-2. And it's not like they didn't have, they had better pitching on the mound yesterday. No, they had their ones out there game 1 with McClanahan and Dylan Cease. So interesting to see yesterday's game. The bats just don't heat up. But I do think it's another great spot for Tampa Bay on the money line here. You can get them at minus 130 on FanDuel, which is really good value. They've won 8 of their last 10 games. We know how good this Tampa Bay team is. And I saw a comment, right, a couple of days ago. It was a good comment. Anytime you can get Tampa Bay right now, at better odds than minus 160, it might be worth it. It's a profitable strategy. They're winning games left and right, 22-5 on the season. So I'm going to lean towards Tampa Bay on the money line here. I don't necessarily love them on the run line. Last 10 games, when they've been favorites here, they've split five run line wins, 5 run line losses. And again, they've won 8 of the last 10 games. So they're not the biggest of run line teams as of right now. And then in terms of the total, I already talked about it. We did see a weird thing here. I don't necessarily have the strongest opinion on this total, if I'm being completely honest. So apologies. Rockies taking on the Diamondbacks here. Davis on the mound for the Rockies, got a sub-1 ERA. Henry on the mound for the Diamondbacks. He's got a post-6 ERA, 6.23 ERA. Colorado here plus money line at dogs here at their home field. Obviously, we're going to have a high total here. It is 12.5. Yesterday's game, we were spot on with that. I knew there'd be a lot of runs, but they did not cover their line. It was 9-1. Arizona wins that one. I think that it's a still one. I think Arizona's way better than this Rockies team. I would look at Arizona on the run line here. They've covered that 2 games in a row, one against Kansas City and then Colorado as well. I don't love that all that much. I do like the under here, though. I think that this is another good spot for it. The only thing that could get me off this, if I think about it more and more, or overthink it more and more, is the fact that yesterday we did have 10 runs. So it almost covered yesterday's line, and the Colorado Rockies only had 1 run. Now, Arizona outweighed that with 9. I don't think Arizona scores 9 again, so kind of like, ebbs and flows there, but I do think this is an under type of game. Just don't know how confident I am about that, and that's just me being completely honest with you guys. All right, the Dodgers are our last game of the slate here. They're taking on the Cardinals. They are minus 147 here at home. Total is sitting at 8 runs. I like the over a very, very, very lot in this one. I think that this one's going to be similar to the game that we saw yesterday, which was a double-digit scoring game. Dodgers ultimately getting that win. Dustin May on the mound for them yesterday. On the mound today for this Dodgers team is going to be Clayton Kershaw. 4-1 with a 2.32 ERA, which is really good. The Cardinals do have a decent pitcher rolling out there now too. Jordan Montgomery, 2-3, at least this season I should say. Decent pitcher, 2-3 with a 3.8 ERA, but Kershaw does have his stuff going right now. I'm going to lean towards the Dodgers in this one, money line. Obviously, we look at them and say, okay, well, you get the win yesterday. That probably feels good. I understand that. They got to do it again. This Dodgers team has not compounded a bunch of good games together. So though they got the win yesterday, they got to focus and not just be complacent with that. So the only thing that worries me is the fact that this Dodgers team has been an absolute roller coaster this season. They have strung a couple wins together, yes, but we got to see that more consistently. So I'm going to lean towards them, being a little scared of that, but I'm also going to take a peek at the over as well. And that is going to wrap it up for today's video. Again, apologies for the quality or anything like that, guys. Hopefully it isn't all that bad. We'll do the same video tomorrow, just FYI. Keep an eye on the community tab if we ever have to reschedule anything like that. But yeah, I hope you guys do enjoy. I'll see you guys in the next one, all right? Peace out.